Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. I'm going to say a couple of stories to introduce today's topic to kind of set the stage for something that I've said probably before, but hopefully will give you a different take on how you can help your team members and how you can help yourself be more efficient, better problem solvers, and really just help to develop people well. So story time, scoot in, settle down. I'm going to tell a couple stories. Back in, I'm going to say, I think it was eighth grade, I was taking algebra. Up until that point, I had been pretty good at math, but something somewhere in the 6th, 7th grade, I started to feel a little bit like it's kind of challenging, or it got a little challenging, but yet I still liked it. So I was good at math, right? But when I got into this algebra class, there was something, it was beginning early in the school year, but I remember getting this one homework assignment that was overwhelming. It was even just the way the document looked was really small print and really hard to read. It was just oh my gosh, I have no idea what they're asking me to do. So even that was overwhelming, and I felt overwhelmed with how to do the work. So I was struggling with it, getting frustrated, wanting to pull my hair out and being I don't even know what to do, and getting myself all spun up. And go to my parents, and neither one of them, I don't even know if they took algebra. I'm sure they did at some point, but neither one of them was willing or able to help me. We were recently moved to a place close to my aunt and uncle. And so go see your uncle. He's the closest that we have to somebody who can do math in our family. Just go see your uncle. So I was all right, call him up. I was can I come over? I'm stuck. And he's yeah, sure, come on over. So I remember we went out. It had to be early because it was beautiful. We sat on the patio table outside, started working through this. And I, got to the first question and then just started kind of talking and to tell him where I was stuck and where I was frustrated. And then as I was talking, conclusions and things started to happen. And I was oh, but then I'll just do this and then I'll do this. And boom, I got the answer. And then, so, okay, let's move to the next problem. So we moved to the next problem. And then it just it all became clear. And it really, I was oh my gosh, I can do this work. And honestly, it set me up for that year of algebra and really all the other 8 years more of math that I probably had to take. It set me up with confidence with it. And he and I literally were just talking about that this week because he's I still remember when you came over and you just talked it through. And he's I literally did nothing. I just sat there, you talked, and it all just came together. This is a concept that I think is underutilized or even underappreciated in a lot of settings. So to kind of take this further, I don't think, I kind of realized what happened, but I didn't understand what happened. I was 13, right? Move forward many more years. I was working and traveling around. We were living in Europe at the time and traveling around a couple different places. And so the people that I would meet up with, my travel buddies, they used to laugh at me because I would come out and ask a question, continue to talk, ask myself another question, and eventually come up with my own answer. And they would start to, it became the running joke. They're well, you're just going to basically talk through, answer your own question, and then come up with the solution and leave. So they're always good talk, good talk. So again, I had no idea what was happening, why that was operating that way. But then I had a boss who I would go to him, I think to do this same practice, but he said to me, he's why do you always have to come and ask me questions? And I was taken aback by it. And I was like, I don't know why I have to ask you questions all the time. And it eventually came to where I wasn't asking him questions, but I got back to that same feeling that I was feeling in 8th grade with this algebra homework, that I was just spun up. I was like, I don't know where to go next, because I wasn't going and asking the questions and essentially verbally processing what I needed to go through in my brain. So this is really the premise of coaching. Where coaching is, we do coaching because, well, the whole premise behind it is that we hold the answers in our mind. We know how to do it, but we just need to talk it through, maybe have some prompting questions from someone else, and maybe a bit of guidance, but typically not even that much guidance, but just some questions and some back and forth to really make all these conclusions and things come together as a whole. And I recently learned something from one of my clients. I'm working with some software developers, and they call this concept the rubber duck, because they're saying, sometimes you just have to talk things through. You're working on something, you have to talk it out loud, and it literally could be a rubber duck. And I was like, this is essentially what I do for a living. And they're like, oh, okay. And so all of these instances, what we're doing when you can do this for a team member, you're actually helping them to problem solve, but you're helping them to clarify things in their brain, and you're giving them so much confidence to be able to do it on their own again. So the question that I want to pose is, how many of us are doing this? How many of us allow people to do this with any kind of problem? I do see it a lot in technical industries, where a technical designer or like a software developer, where people will they'll spitball things together. But really any problem, people problems, it's helpful to do strategic thoughts. Any kind of problem solving that you might have is going to benefit from this verbal interaction. And again, I don't think that people do this a lot, or they sequester it to these coaching sessions, these one-on-ones that I talk about all the time, and they don't need to stay in that scenario. There's a whole different type of coaching that we can do that is this kind of impromptu, I just need to process sort of coaching model, or coaching sessions, or just conversations, or really just listening, because that's all my uncle did that day, was just listen to me verbalize my thoughts and get something out there so that connections could then be made and a solution could be found. So why does this work? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, your brain operates differently when you're speaking versus when you're just running through ideas in your head. So think of a time when, or just start doing it now. Think of a problem you have and sort it out just in your brain without verbalizing any of it. My brain might work differently than yours, but if your brain works anything like mine, you're going to start down one path, leap over here, jump back to this way, circle around, think about lunch, then jump over here, remember an errand you have to run, then go back to where you started and go around in circles again. Like, you're going to go to many different places because your brain is capable of having many different thoughts at the same time that are just jumping up. But when you have a conversation, you have to get it out of your mouth, right? So it has to go through the translators in your brain. I'm not a brain scientist by any stretch. Don't claim to be, but it has to go through different parts of your brain and come out in some kind of a process that it's going to make sense to someone else. So you're processing it a little bit further, and now it's allowing your brain to kind of go through the full thought process that is needed to complete the thought and to complete that train to get you to draw these conclusions or connections. And sometimes when we're working with somebody else, they may ask a question that then spurts off many other different ideas and kind of gets you really thinking. So this back and forth is brilliant, and it builds relationships, but the most important part is it gets people moving on productive solutions rather than spinning in circles on their own. So how does this look in practice? All right. So the biggest thing, and I think this is maybe where open door policies kind of came about, like where, our doors are always open to ask these kind of questions, because this is what that would be for. Like, hey, I got some stuff, I'm struggling, I just need to get it out of my brain and talk it through with someone else. So that's a great way to kind of welcome that sort of conversation. But it can also happen when you're just checking in with somebody. As a leader, it's great to pop in and say, "How's it going today? Everything going well? What do you got on your plate? Anything coming up or anything you're struggling with?" Like, you can pop in and have these kind of conversations, whether you're in an office environment or in a manufacturing environment. We used to do it all the time. "Hey, how are you doing today?" In the shop floor. "How are you doing today?" "Oh, what's going well?" "Oh, looks like you're making here. Any problems? Anything coming up?" Just start asking little questions like that. Things come out. We find problems. We solve problems, and that's what our jobs as leaders are: is to help people find the problems and help them solve them. Right? We're not meant to always solve everything, so keep that in mind. So these conversations, these sporadic coaching conversations or impromptu coaching conversations, are huge for that. So as a leader, it's important to make sure that you're allowing that to happen. So if you have somebody who comes to you with questions a lot, you might have to check yourself a little bit, and you might have to say, they may not be looking for an answer. They may be looking for an ear. And in fact, even if they are looking for an answer, they're going to benefit more if you're an ear for them. Because what you're going to do is, number one, you're going to see how their brain is operating. You're going to hear that thought process come out of their mouths so you can understand what they're doing. And you can start talking through, why are you thinking it that way? You can start to question some of their thought processes, or to understand their thought processes better, so you can see where either they're really good at something or where they may need some more support and development in how they're thinking or how they're connecting dots or how they're approaching problems or skipping steps or whatever you might discover. So these things are helpful for you to develop them better, but they're helpful for them because the more time they sit spinning and questioning and kind of going in circles or following the same thought processes that they've always followed, the more time is wasted, the more struggling they're going to be, and probably a lower confidence level that they're going to be. But if they can talk it through and then come away with saying, "Oh, I came up with that answer. I feel amazing." Like, when I walked away from that algebra homework night, I felt so good. Like, literally, I was 12 or 13 at the time. Like, I was early 8th grade, however old you are in that time. Like, I still remember that, and I am a long ways from 12 or 13. So it's many, many years later, I am remembering that still, and I'm remembering that feeling, and I'm remembering the fact that I still really like math, even though I don't use it much. But I still like it. I love algebra. I think it's super fun. Before that conversation I had in my head, it was hard. But because I was able to talk it through with somebody who I trusted and essentially came up with the answers, but felt like I got help and support, and I was able to get my frustrations out and process through the problem, I was able to gain the confidence to have the answer and the solution. So it's important that people have this time. And as the leader, it's important that you give the time and you make sure that you're allowing the time and not just trying to give the answer. Because in theory, the answer is faster to just answer their question. But the reality is it's not, because if you give them the answer today, you're going to give them the answer tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year. If you take a little bit more time in that first conversation and you talk them through, or you allow them to just talk it out, you're going to have that one conversation, and the next time they're going to be a little bit better. So you might have another conversation that looks like that. But then they're going to start to be able to take those problems, and then they're going to level up, and they're going to have the confidence where they may not need the conversations as often, because it's only in more complex situations that you need it. So I know I personally use this all the time. So leaders, you probably need it too. There are some ways that I fake it when I don't have an ear. So a couple of those ways can be journaling it out if it's like a written sort of problem or something that you need to think through. So journaling and writing. My most favorite way, like when I'm planning sessions or something like that, is to get on a big whiteboard or my flip chart paper and just start kind of writing it out, because it's still going through a process to kind of come through here and to coherently get out. However, I still think that talking it out is better and is most certainly more efficient. So again, I also utilize friends and family members. So I just last week utilized my mother. I was talking through an accounting problem Like I was stuck. I was spinning in my head. I was like, how do I do this? And I could feel it. I could feel it right there. But I was like, I cannot figure this out. I went and I talked to my mom just randomly. I was like, I'm just struggling. I can't figure out what to do. And as I was talking, I was like, oh, but if I do this, then this, then this, it all works out. And then I did check with some actual people that know what they're talking about. And I was on the right track, most certainly. So I was there's more technical things to do, but I definitely had the right concept figured out just from talking to my mom, who does not know how to use accounting software or anything about accounting, to be fair. She was a kindergarten teacher for many, many years. So it can help just to get things out of your mind and out of your brain. So as a leader, it's important to find those resources and those helpers for you so you can do the same thing. Because think about the decisions that you're making. If you're the top level of your organization, you have to set this whole strategy, the strategic direction, which sometimes you can do with your whole team. And in a lot of ways, when we're building a strategy for a company, I most certainly want the top team there to be working through that strategy session to make sure that all the inputs are in there. But there's times when it's just the leader has to strategize and has to make certain decisions around the direction of the company or around the direction for themselves. And it can be helpful to have your bank of people that you go and see, right? So it can be a spouse, it can be a friend, but if you're finding yourself doing it or needing to do it quite often, it is worth having a mentor or a coach or somebody that you can go to and you're not burdening them as well. So as a leader, it's your job to do that. As a coach for my clients, it's my job to do that for them. So finding those people in your life, and it might be different people for different situations because you might actually need advice in there as well and learning. But finding those people and having them kind of at least in your brain, if not actually written down and maybe some kind of an agreement with, it can be invaluable. So if you're a leader and you're looking for that for yourself, I have a new coaching program that I've started out where you can have this kind of bounce off conversation where you're verbalizing it. We're calling it an asynchronous coaching program. And literally what you do is you've got unlimited kind of access to me. It's just not going to be in a face-to-face sort of situation. But you can get on Slack and you can do a video or you can do a verbal, like just hit the go button and just start talking and verbalize out what's happening and then send it off. And I can respond in some way with either the video or typing or whatever makes sense, whatever is needed at that time to get that information kind of back and forth. And it's so awesome because you're able to get it out of your brain. And as you're speaking, you will hear these conclusions and these questions, and you'll hear yourself start to kind of spit things out and build pieces together. And again, all these conversations can be enhanced with a back and forth sort of conversation to connect more dots, spur more ideas, and keep things moving forward. So if that's something that interests you, reach out to me. I've got a beta program starting, so you get even more, so we do get more one-on-one access because we're checking in to see what works. We're going to be doing some training sessions monthly, recording those so they're there for the future, and a lot of little extra things as we're helping things out. So reach out to me if you're interested in that. There's going to be a link in the show notes to get more details on it. But overall, I just want to raise awareness of this external processing need that we all have and how we can benefit ourselves personally, professionally, our businesses and our teams and our clients with allowing that time and that space to let people talk things out, verbalize them, and start drawing their own conclusions. It builds confidence. It gets people unstuck from spinning. And it just creates an overall better team, better company, better business. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like it, share with a friend, leave a review or comment on the YouTube page, and I will see you next time on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.